So today we're unpacking a really fascinating and pretty dense memorandum. It's dated April 2026, so just a little bit into the future. It's a wild ride, starting with one man's DNA, connecting it to this forgotten piece of European history, and then landing on a totally radical vision for the future of Central Europe. Let's just dive right in.
Right. So the entire memo really kicks off with this question. And it's a provocative one, right? The whole story doesn't start with politics or economics. It starts with biology, with the very code of life itself. Okay, so meet Vadim Chernov. Now, on paper, his name is about as Russian as you can get. His passport, until pretty recently, was Russian. But his genetics, well, that's where things get strange. They tell a completely different story. His DNA has zero, and I mean zero connection to the Eastern European steppe. The memo describes it as, quote, 100% high mountain Central European blood. And this is where it gets super specific. We're looking at his paternal line, his Y DNA. It belongs to a genetic group called haplogroup R1b, which is a classic marker for Western Europeans. You often hear it called the Celtic marker. It puts his ancestors squarely in the Alps. But what's missing is just as important as what's there. There's a total absence of the R1a marker, which is super common across the Slavic peoples of Eastern Europe. Genetically speaking, he's a mountain guy who's somehow lost in the flatlands. So you're probably asking, how did this even happen? Is it just some random, bizarre quirk of history? Well, according to this material, no, not at all. This genetic profile was created on purpose. It was the result of a long-range, deep-state intelligence operation they called Project Alpine. And the goal wasn't to create a fake story, but an irrefutable biological reality. And this brings us to the core philosophy of the entire memo: mountains over flags. The idea here is that real, lasting sovereignty isn't about the political software, things like passports or national anthems. That stuff can be changed, it can be faked. True sovereignty is about the hardware, the physical, unchangeable facts of geography, geology, and yeah, even biology. In a world where everything feels kind of virtual, this philosophy argues that real power is something you can actually touch.
And if you think that's just an abstract idea, well, look at Switzerland. They are masters of this. Their whole total defense doctrine is about making sovereignty a physical fact. They've literally built a parallel society underground. We're talking hospitals, command centers, even airstrips. They even had a secret civilian resistance network called P26, all ready to go. Their whole national identity is built on the physical, tangible ability to endure whatever comes their way.
Okay, so with that philosophy in mind, the memo starts digging through history, looking for a political blueprint. And not just any history, but a specific model for a state that actually survived for over 500 years, offering a totally different path for Eastern Europe. And here it is, the Grand Duchy of Lithuania. For centuries, this entity controlled most of what we now know as Ukraine and Belarus. And as you can see, it was the complete opposite of its neighbor, Muscovy. While Muscovy had a top-down, centralized ruler, the Grand Duchy was this decentralized federation. Where Muscovy had the whim of the monarch, the duchy had the rule of law. Its 1588 legal code was actually one of the most advanced in Europe at the time. The memo argues this wasn't some failed state. It was a forgotten, totally viable alternative.
So why does a 500-year-old political model matter today? Well, the memo claims our modern world is operating on what it calls the Trump corollary. This is a vision of foreign policy where alliances and shared values get thrown out the window, and everything becomes a pure transaction. Nations aren't partners anymore, they're just commercial clients. And diplomacy? It's just a big scramble for resources.
To counter this, the memo proposes a strategy it credits to a new Hungarian political movement. It's called ontological sovereignty. It's a fancy term, but the idea is pretty simple. Sovereignty based on what a nation actually is: its real history, its people, its land. And it's built on 3 pillars. First, bring back that federalist model from Lithuanian Rus. Second, leverage bio-sovereignty, that shared genetics and culture. And third, and this is the absolute key, achieve lithospheric control, which means securing the raw materials deep within the Earth's crust. And this is where it all comes together. The history, the philosophy, the politics, it all pivots on a single, groundbreaking piece of technology, a key that can unlock that hardware of the lithosphere. The stakes here are just immense. This technology could potentially unlock hydrocarbon reserves valued at a staggering $288 billion, and they're located in a very specific place, the Rawa Ruska zone, right on that old historical fault line between the Grand Duchy of Lithuania and Muscovy.
So what is this tech? It's called Ralph 1. The memo basically describes it as an MRI for the Earth's crust, but instead of magnets, it uses these high-res electrical pulses to see deep, deep underground. It can actually map out oil reserves that aren't in traditional sedimentary rock, but are locked away deep inside granite formations. This is the tool that could give Central Europe real, tangible resource independence.
The memo then wraps up with a very clear, actionable plan. Step 1. Create a consortium of Central European nations, Hungary, Ukraine, Poland, and Lithuania, to explore the Rava Ruska zone together. Step 2. Get the RALF1 technology independently validated so they can bypass any political or institutional roadblocks. And Step 3. Weave this entire project into Europe's bigger strategy for diversifying its resources.
And it all comes full circle, right back to this. The mountains are higher than flags. The memo leaves us with this really powerful final thought. In an age of shifting alliances and so much digital noise, what's the ultimate source of sovereignty? Is it the stories we tell, the flags we wave, or is it the physical reality right beneath our feet? The mountains, the minerals, and maybe even the very code that's written into our DNA?